Hello you nerds. You all know Team Fortress 2, right? Most popular FPS game, been around for over 16 years, and I enjoy playing it so much. So much so that I even made a video talking about how much I love the game, and how the game stayed alive. Not to mention that the game peaked at 250,000 players just when the summer update came out. So it's proof that TF2 will stay alive no matter what. But what about the game that came before it? Like Team Fortress Classic. Now listen, I've never played TFC before, and I wasn't even alive when the game first came out. Originally, I was gonna make a video fully comparing the two, similar to Rat Lobber's video about the two Left 4 Dead games. But after only 6 hours into the game, let's just say, plans have changed. Because after seeing a handful of people talking about how the game is dead and how it's not worth playing, I don't know if anyone has done a comprehensive review or video essay about the game's decline, since the only videos I could find are the development history of the game. So the question is, what happened to Team Fortress Classic? Coming from a guy who has played a lot of TF2 during my childhood, I thought it'd be interesting to make this video, to see how the game declined in popularity and how it differs from TF2. But first, let's talk about the origins of TFC. Also, be sure to subscribe with bell notifications on, because I want to be able to make videos full time. So it's 1996. 3 Australian individuals known as Robin Walker, John Cook, and Ian Colley decided to make a Quake mod called Team Fortress, and it instantly became a success. Originally, Team Fortress started with 5 classes and will later add 4 more classes such as the Heavy, the Pyro, the Spy, and the Engineer. Yeah, classes. Back then, no one had heard of class-based shooter games, and fun fact while researching this, Quake Team Fortress was one of the first FPS games to introduce headshots. Yeah, headshots. I even had to do a bit of digging to confirm that's true. Because Team Fortress became the most popular mod on Quake, I mean Quake World since they decided to move Team Fortress over there, they decided to drop out of college to work on a sequel called Team Fortress. Yes, TF2 had been in development for nearly a decade. Eventually, the mod caught the attention of Valve, as they offered them a job at their company, and had them port Team Fortress as a free mod for Half-Life, which would be called Team Fortress Classic, built on the Gold Source engine as a way to demonstrate its modding capabilities. Since its release in 1999, TFC has gone through many changes, with updates including tweaking the game's balance, occasional new update, and a large update released in 2000 that introduced many new things, such as new maps, new game modes, new GUI, smoother gameplay, and newly made models that you would see in the TF2 comics. They would even call the game Team Fortress 1.5. The game would also migrate to Steam as a standalone game in 2003, which at the time was the birth of Steam and a place where you could download and update games. TFC would become one of the most played online games in the early 2000s, other than Counter-Strike 1.6, and there would even be tournaments about it. And that is how Team Fortress Classic came to be. As for how we got to Team Fortress 2, you'll have to wait until near the end of the video, since this is a video about Team Fortress Classic after all. Now onto the game itself. As always, you join one of 2 teams, red and blue. And in case it wasn't obvious enough, TFC is a whole different game than TF2. The game has grenades and armor, the GUI is different, the class selection is in a different order, the weapon choice and playstyles are very different, no hats, no microtransactions, maps like 2-4 were designed differently back then, you can interact with objects, you can instantly respawn, and lastly, the art style is more serious and realistic than the wacky cartoony art style we all know and love, especially since the world of TFC is all dark and gritty, and all the characters designed aren't your typical zany mercenaries, and they didn't show much of a personality up until their debut in the TF2 comics. This is also the only game where you hear,
"Excuse me, I'm in need of medical attention."
For the gameplay itself, you'll notice that all the classes carry 4 grenades, 2 of which are different depending on the classes you choose. We got the frag grenades, concussion grenades, Murph grenades, nail grenades, EMP grenades, napalm grenades, hallucination grenades, and the caltrops. You can even use some of them for nade jumping, which unfortunately I'm not very good at, and I don't even know how to use them properly, or at least know when to spam them. They also carry crowbars as their melee weapon, like Gordon Freeman. Well, except for the medic, the spy, and the engineer, which should be pretty obvious why. Also, why do some classes have 2 shotguns? And who the fuck uses a single barrel shotgun? Other than the grenades and crowbars, all the classes carry the same mechanics as the one from TF2. With the only difference being that the scout is fucking useless, he can't deal damage, he can't double jump, and the only thing he's good for is running to capture the flag as fast as you can.
How fast I am?
while conch jumping, which, like I said, I'm not very good at. The soldier is still relatively the same since you can still rocket jump. The pyro has an incendiary cannon that functions the same as the soldier's rocket launcher, except it shoots fire. She also can't air blast. And yes, I said she, because she's actually a woman. The demo man carries a pipe bomb launcher that doesn't stick to any surfaces. He has some dead packs, and he's white. The heavy is actually the strongest class in the entire game. Sorry TF2 Heavy, I like this one better. The engineer can't move buildings, and since the game has armor, you can also use his wrench to repair your teammate's armor. And he also has a laser gun. The medic, although can still heal people, he doesn't have uber charge. And you can use your medkit to infect people with the most dangerous virus of all time. And the funniest part about it is that it can spread to other players, so going back to your spawn won't save you unless you have a medic to cure you. Plus he's more of an offense than support, which you can tell by his current design, which, surprise surprise, he has a combat medic. The sniper, all you have to do is hold down left click to charge your shot, which you can tell by that red dot. Yeah, basically TF2's classic. Plus getting kills feels very satisfying.
Nice.
And the spy has a tranquilizer dart that slows down your enemies. Although you can't turn invisible, he has a unique ability to fake his death, just like how you would use the dead ringer. Plus it's pretty funny to see people pass by me whenever I play dead, unless they're pyro. And lastly, did you know that TFC had a 10th class? Yeah, a 10th class, called Civilian. I mean, you can only play him in a game mode called Escort, which is the game mode where a team of bodyguards tries to escort the civilian while the hunter tries to kill the civilian. The only weapon the civilian has on hand is an umbrella, which is kinda strange to be used as a weapon. Unfortunately, there is only one map called Hunted, and no one seems to be playing on the map anymore. Based on what I heard, anyone who plays Civilian would purposely throw the match, which explains why TF2 replaced Hunted with Payload. And the same for other game modes. No one seems to be playing on those anymore. Just Capture the Flag, a bit of Dust Bowl, and some fun maps are all that remains as of making of this video. And speaking of fun maps, there are fun maps, Half-Life maps, and even custom maps you can play on. You can even download some of the custom maps on the TFC map archive. For custom maps, you can play on adventure maps, climb maps, skill maps, or even rocket jump maps like fucking Banana Land, which is the same map both Star and German played on. I thought it'd be cool to mention that because I'm a casual Germa enjoyer. Comment down below if you're a Germa fan. Back to the normal maps. To be frank, I'm no expert on map design or anything like that since I'm still an amateur game design student, as stated in my Toho video. So I'm just gonna be talking about what I find interesting on one particular map, 2 Fort. I mean, it's pretty iconic at this point. What I find interesting about 2 Fort is that there are essentially 2 ways to get to the other side of the map. 1, you cross the bridge, and 2, you swim into the cave tunnels underwater, though chances are you'll probably drown since it literally takes a while to swim back up. Luckily, that's all fixed in TF2 since you can just run through the tunnel easily, and the bridge has a roof, so you have more options on how you want to get to the other side of the map. Another thing I find interesting is that there is an elevator to go up and down to the basement, but personally, I find it complicated to figure out how it works. Whereas in TF2, the elevator is replaced with stairs so you can get to the basement at ease. Lastly, one of the spawn rooms used to have 2 one-way doors in and out, but now in TF2, it's replaced with 1 door so you can get in and out of the spawn room with ease. Huh. I'm starting to wonder why some people say the game has been dumbed down. For my experience playing TFC for the first time, I went into the game hoping to have a casual experience just like in TF2. Well, obviously, I kinda knew what I was getting myself into, but let me tell you, the gameplay feels very competitive and a bit clunky. Not to mention that almost all the veterans are so fucking skilled. Learning the skill curve as a new player was not easy. I mean, I guess I've gotten used to treating TF2 as a non-competitive game, and it may just be me having skill issue, but still. It took me 7 hours of gameplay to learn how to bunny hop, and I still suck at using grenades, alongside other skills that are way too complicated for my zoomer brain to learn, probably because I'm a college student and have better things to do. Except for rocket jumping, I don't think it's that difficult. You know, I find it amusing that learning the skill curve of TFC reminds me of the time when I first started playing TF2. I think I remember that it took me just as long as TFC to learn the ropes of the game, probably due to the fact that I was like an 11-year-old kid who didn't understand how the world works. So despite TFC's competitiveness, TFC is honestly a pretty good fun game. There's really nothing in particular that makes me want to cease or complain about, but sadly, I wouldn't say that TFC is as fun as TF2, since, like I said before, I never got the chance to play any other game modes. Just Capture the Flag, a bit of Dust Bowl, and some fun custom maps. Of course, I could get my friends to play TFC with me, but I don't think they'd be interested in such a dead game. Now, I don't know any direct reasons on why no one plays TFC anymore, or how the game died. But I've come up with a couple of reasons. It could be that the game is really old. The Gold Source engine is severely outdated now that we have the Source engine and Source 2. All the remaining players are so skilled, it makes it very punishing for new players to get into. So TFC won't be getting any new players at the moment. The game is not free to play. I mean, sure, you could get TFC by buying the Half-Life Complete Pack, which I personally think you should get since you're gonna miss out on one of the greatest FPS games of all time. But I feel like maybe TFC could have more players if the game was free to play, or probably not since TF2 is still popular. Maybe a lack of content, or maybe because people just accepted that times are changing and moved on with their lives, like any other growing adult would do when they grow up, since they probably won't have time to play TFC, or any other video games in general. Actually, you know what? It's because of one game, Team Fortress 2. After all, it was 9 years in development, as Lord Gaben himself said,
"Welcome to Team Fortress 2. After 9 years in development, hopefully it will have been worth the wait."
They've been working on a sequel called Team Fortress 2, Brotherhood of Arms. It was originally supposed to be a realistic FPS strategy game with additional classes, vehicles, and having 3 lives. Valve even showed the game publicly at E3 1999, and it was well received. It seemed like development was almost complete, up until they decided to scrap the game and start all over from scratch, by working on Team Fortress Invasion instead, which is basically a humans versus aliens type of game made in a new Source engine. And then they decided to scrap the game again and start all over from scratch. And then we have the game we all know and love today, Team Fortress 2, with the iconic cartoony art style, personalized characters, a huge selection of weapons and playstyles, new game modes, hats, taunts. The game is more refined and balanced, and a couple of major changes being that they removed grenades because it's spammable, and replaced the game mode Escort with Payload, which made a lot of TFC players very upset. Luckily, those removed features would be added to source mods such as Team Fortress 2 Classic and Pre-Fortress 2, and that is how we went from Team Fortress Classic to Team Fortress 2, and the rest is history. Interestingly enough, there is a mod called Fortress Forever that's supposed to be a well-balanced version of TFC, and it's actually built on the Source engine, but unfortunately, the mod is just very dead, I'm afraid to say. And the fact that the mod came out 1 month before TF2 came out could have been why the mod died so quickly. And over time, TFC has lost many players, with the game now having less than 75 active players as the making of this video. Wow, I didn't mean to make it sound depressing or some shit, but that's pretty much all I have to say to the conversation. Let me know in the comments what you think of both TFC and TF2 as a game, or if you have some interesting insights that I don't know about. I'm not sure what will become of TFC in the future, but I will say, as a young TF2 player myself, TFC was pretty fun to research and experience playing. While I personally never experienced what the game was like in the 2000s, I can understand why people love TFC so much. I also can't help but acknowledge the fact that without Quake, we wouldn't have TFC. Without TFC, we wouldn't have TF2. And without TF2, we wouldn't have fucking Overwatch or something. Even TF2 has some references from TFC, such as the cosmetic items, the Invasion update, the classic, and playing a major part in the TF2 comics. The idea of making TFC free to play sounds pretty nice and all, but even if Valve decided to make the game free to play, I really hate to say this, but I think we all know damn well that TFC won't get as much players as we hope to have. Despite TFC being a fantastic game, even though I have like over 6 hours into the game, it still doesn't change the fact that TF2 is objectively better than TFC. Sorry though, we all knew it was pretty inevitable. And if you plan on buying TFC, I highly recommend buying the Half-Life Complete Pack like I did back in 2019. Now would you excuse me? I'm gonna go back to playing TF2.